Hi, I'm Warren Johnson from W Communications, and I'm here with Akama Davies from WPP, and we're going to be talking about how to future-proof your organisation. As a bit of an intro, I run a PR agency that works across the consumer space, but we set up about 18 months ago a social enterprise called WX, which was dedicated to driving social mobility in the creative industries, really about bringing people through into the industry from non-traditional backgrounds. So I'm really excited to talk to some of the great stuff that Akama's been doing at WPP. So it'd be great to hear a little bit more about the great work that you guys have been doing, and then I know we were keen to get on to talking about some of the challenges of future-proofing our organisations and others, and then also really looking at that sort of bringing a new pool of talent in that previously had been not aware of what we do or excluded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Hi everyone, Akama Davies, Director of Global Solutions and Innovation at Xaxis, part of the WPP org. I'm also the co-founder of an organisation called We Are Stripes, which looks to address the ethnic imbalance in the creative industries. So as Warren mentioned, there's a number of things that we've been doing across WPP over the years and certainly recently as well that we're extremely proud of. So I'm keen to get into that in the discussion today.
Cool, good stuff. So, I mean, one of the things that we were talking about before the call actually was my observation is I think there's often a lot of there's been a lot of negativity in this space, which is people being called out for what they haven't been doing. And for me, I'm keen to find a bit more of a celebratory tone in terms of what some of the benefits of some of the D&I initiatives that companies are undertaking to really get people mobilised, but also I think maybe to discuss, certainly from a future-proofing point of view, how we can encourage companies to maybe take a bit more risk and be a bit less scared of failure, and hopefully embrace more ambitious initiatives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is often a sense of a bit of intrepidation in terms of maybe a fear of getting things wrong in the D&I space. We obviously want to encourage organisations to be brave in what they're doing and to take that action. I think a lot of security in terms of how you can be more confident and more positive in the space is to create platforms for employees. So that's something that we've focused on specifically at WPP. So there are a number of employee resource groups that comprise of various different forms of identity and diversity, and also those intersections within that. And they're often tasked with really surfacing some of those challenges maybe within an organisation, or some of the things that are important to communities that we want to represent in the organisation, and supporting areas such as training, development, minimum standards that we might have in terms of making us a more confident and positive organisation in terms of the D&I policies and strategies that we employ.
Cool. And how were you able to get the organisation behind that, and how far ahead do you plan? I mean, I guess in terms of people that have hopefully dropped in to listen to us, are there any learnings from some of the great stuff you've been doing about how to start to bake those in and take a sort of slightly more sort of future-proofing look?
Absolutely. I think data is key, and it all really starts with data. So one of the big undertakings that we took was called the WPP Belonging Survey. And that was a survey of over 7,000 people across the business. And we had 3,000 comments that came through that really helped us inform what we could do to enact change and represent the experiences of different communities within the organisation, and them taking that forward to determine what policies that need to come out at the other end, and also in terms of what we want to celebrate, things that we're doing well, but things that certainly that we could do better as well.
Well, that's quite an undertaking. Was that the first year that you guys have done that?
There had been elements captured across different parts of the OpCo, but in terms of this scale, it was great to see that so many people responding this year and really feeling like there was a platform to have their views heard. And the survey touched upon things from resourcing to how teams organise to company culture, senior leadership, and really gave us an opportunity to address and be super focused in terms of our D&I approaches.
Was there anything particularly unexpected that came out that surprised you in the findings?
I don't think unexpected per se, but also that's in the eye of the beholder very much. So in terms of what we see, there were maybe some disparities in experience that may have been expected by others, may have not been expected by some, but at least it puts us all on that level playing field, which is the most important thing to move forward and to affect change. So I don't think there was too much from my view that we didn't expect, but it's more important that we're seeing the experiences of everyone in the organisation and where we need to focus through the same lens or a more consolidated lens moving forward.
And how do you then benchmark against that? Is that then something you'll do on an annual basis and look for areas of improvement, or you'll evolve the metrics? How's that running as an ongoing piece of work?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we'll look to improve. This will filter down into strategies that we held at the WPP level in terms of how we can improve representation at senior levels. One of the key things that's come out of that is kickstarting a sponsorship program of looking at really elevating and progressing diverse talent through the organisation. And then there might be, or there will be aspects that will fall at a group or an individual co-level. So at Xaxis, we have our own benchmarks that we'll work towards about the things that have been surfaced for us, like how we can encourage women in technology returning to work, for example, and create a more flexible and inclusive space in that regard. So there's lots to take away, and just having a really connected approach across the different OpCos is certainly helping to achieve that already, as it has done in the past as well.
Cool. And what would your advice be to business leaders such as myself that perhaps don't have the org structure and the deep pockets that WPP have? What are some of the I guess earlier things to do to start on that path towards having a better, more diverse workforce that's moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I think some of the things that you can do, almost in terms of how you approach challenges. So I always say, as a rule of thumb, treat it with the same accountability and rigor as you would do any other part of the business. So irrespective of the size of your organization, including success and celebration of positive results on your diversity and inclusion initiatives as part of things that are linked to remuneration. So one of the things that we've kickstarted at WPP Accelerate is for the senior level and C-suite leaders in the organization, really celebrating people that are driving that forward in a positive way, but then also having a consistent accountability where we're including that as part of our everyday reporting of performance and seeing it as really central as to what we can do. That's really devolved down to an individual level. So my team of innovation and product managers, we have our own objectives and key results that include diversity and inclusion. And wins of that ilk we celebrate in the same way. Whenever we have our monthly calls across the business and our team meetings, we always allocate space to that in the same vein. And as mentioned, some initiatives such as sponsorship don't need a huge amount of investment. So you can already look at what the composition of your organization is, who's in the building, and how you really advance those individuals' careers in the long term. So,
and just drilling down into that, in terms of actual KPIs and metrics, without maybe giving away the WPP secret sauce, but what would that be? Would that be about sort of speed of if in mentorship, speed of career advancement? Would it be about increasing a pool of talent coming in? Like, what are the actual kind of numbers that you're looking for?
Yeah, so there's different aspects of how you look at it. So the belonging survey mentioned, you would look at session on session improvement in terms of what we were seeing from how people were feeling about their experience of working at the organisation. If you look at it from a recruitment lens, it might be having a standard where we want to have representative slates upstream for any role that we're hiring for. And at an individual level, sponsorship is so unique, but it's really saying and outlining what the objectives are and having a time period of which you feel like you're progressing across those. Obviously, there are factors that need to be taken into account from that, but then the sponsors and sponsees can feed back in terms of the success of the program so that we can constantly keep on evolving it as well.
Cool. And outside of WPP, which businesses are you seeing that might be relevant to some of the people that are involved in Black Tech Fest at the moment that you think are doing well in perhaps different fields? Are there any other initiatives that we should be commending and maybe taking some inspiration from?
Yeah, absolutely. So as mentioned, I co-found We Are Stripes. We work with a number of different organizations in a variety of initiatives in the tech space, some of which we can't fully disclose who they are, but they're a large software and technology, the world's leading software and technology provider who is offering again a mentoring and coaching initiative. And we've just kicked that off on Friday. So it was a process of working with us to identify people that were looking to transition into their organization or take that next step. And they're providing free of charge coaching for them with employees and utilising the network and the resources of that organisation for the next 4 months as well. So I think that's something that we can really look to shout out. And there are countless companies as well that have reached out to consultancy, and that's really one of the key areas as well. So just how do you understand what you need to do in order to structure your company to make that long-lasting change, one of which I can name in that regard. So Kindred, an independent creative agency, have made huge strides through working with us in that way, and we've already started to see their commitment and their presence in diverse communities improve as well.
Right. And is there a financial element to this? Are there any other ways of ultimately sort of monetizing or measuring it from a financial point of view?
Yes, of course. So there's 2 studies that are often quoted or referenced when we have the conversation about D&I. The first is the McKinsey Why Diversity Matters. So that's looking at companies in the top quartile for ethnic and gender diversity are outperforming ones that are in the bottom quartile, for example. The other one is Deloitte Uncovering Talent, which is about the impact of covering, also known as code switching. And that has a huge impact on attrition. So again, I think it was 5,000 respondents in that. Half of the people who responded said that they were covering, but of that, 83% said that they would leave their organization if the need to hide aspects of their identity continued. So there's an opportunity to really accelerate the growth in terms of commercial performance. There's a risk against talent as well. And fundamentally, we are in a creative advertising industry. We want the output to be authentic and representative. So we know that the quality of our work is going to improve by having diverse voices. And we're seeing that reflected in terms of the work that's being celebrated and recognised at awards ceremonies, for example.
Great, that's fantastic. And just sort of changing tack a little bit, when we founded WX to bring kind of a new cohort of people into the PR industry, one of our hypotheses was that there was a large pool of people that weren't connected, that were disenfranchised, that were desperate to get into PR and just somehow couldn't. And it turns out that those people that we wanted to connect with didn't know what PR was and much less cared. And that was, for us, represented quite an interesting barrier, which is actually part of our job, was to attract different people from less privileged backgrounds. Our take was less from a D&I, but more of a sort of overall social mobility play, was to actually go out and not necessarily offer jobs, so that's what we do, but it was to go and inspire people about careers and even from quite a young age. I mean, we were very privileged to be able to go into a primary school level and start to do career talks there, which is almost from 5 onwards. People start to shape their career aspirations, and it's something that you mentioned before our call that you guys were very active as well in terms of fundamentally changing the pipeline of people that come into our industries. It'd be great to understand what you guys are doing in that space as well, and if there's any other people that anyone listening on this live stream could maybe connect with and get support from.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, Warren, it is, I would say, one of the areas that I'm most passionate about in terms of creating those inroads into our industry. And I think historically, the creative industries have often relied on maybe thinking because we're in a cool or dynamic space that talent would naturally come. But when you compare that to some more traditional industries that actively have been engaging with schools and universities, the likes of the law firms, the accountancies, or outfits as well, they really are kind of winning that war on talent in that space. And something that we identify, like I personally and our team will hold an insight day where we explore opportunities within media industry internally, but also across the board. So unveiling different roles and responsibilities or different skill sets. And we hold those every 2 to 3 weeks across the various different groups. Is that the actual understanding of what the opportunity is in media, advertising, ad tech is very limited. But understandably, how would you know? Because we're maybe not doing the level of outreach that we could do. And I would encourage anyone on the call, if you are thinking about doing some more outreach to young people in particular who are trying to access the inventory, there's loads of great organizations that are out there that are going to really help you do that in a simple but scalable way that's going to be incredibly rewarding for yourself as employees. Just to name a few, you've got the likes of Brixton Finishing Store, do a fantastic job of social mobility, ethnic diversity, and also now neurodiversity. You have the Media Trust that again focuses on ethnic diversity and social mobility as well, creative access in a very similar vein. In addition to that, the other route that organizations can tap into if they have available is the apprenticeship programs. So MediaCom have also done this with great success in the past too.
Cool. I guess just for me to maybe wrap up on or try and draw a few of those things together and upsum, how do we feel that a kind of lack of diversity can impact the creative output? And how does that fundamentally impact sort of reach and effectiveness of some of the work that we do from a sort of marcoms industry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all about authenticity in a message, and if you have those voices represented within the organization, that authenticity is going to come through in an extremely organic way. I think that's key, and that's something that we're seeing in creative output. And my field in innovation is about connecting ideas and really having that diversity of mindset and diversity of experience to solve complex problems. And we need to ensure that we are having a diversity of different people that are solving these problems within our team to be successful and to really grow and have success for our clients as well.
Cool. I think we're down to about 1 minute. I'm going to put you on the spot now.
Yeah.
There were 3, if everyone that's watching, if there were 3 things they could do tomorrow to future-proof their business or advance what we've been talking about, what would they be, no matter how small or big they might be?
Yeah. Start with data. Try and be evidence-based in your approach. If you can't undertake a big survey, we did something which was a visual representation where people would draw coloured orbs in a jar that would visually represent where people identified as in communities. Do more outreach, as mentioned. That could be, it doesn't have to be limited just to HR. It could be individuals within a certain department that want to run a day where they open the doors and allow talent to come and see what they're about as an organization and what the industry is about. And then also look to accelerate the talent that you have within your organization, be that via mentoring or sponsorship or if you are a senior leader, connecting those people with your network as well.
Cool. Okay, I think we're out of time. I don't have an earpiece that anyone's whispering into, but I think that was great. Well, look, really, really good to talk to you. Some fascinating insights there, and I've certainly taken a few notes myself. So thanks so much. Really good to chat, and thanks for people for listening.
Cheers, Warren. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.